Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. Wendy Rogers, a Republican representing Arizona in the state Senate, had submitted a proposal for a bill with the intention of making Bitcoin legal tender in Arizona and enabling state entities to accept Bitcoin as a payment. This would make it possible to use Bitcoin to make payments towards debt, taxes, and other forms of financial obligations within the state. This would imply that any transaction that are currently carried out in US dollars could possibly also be carried out using Bitcoin, and that both people and corporations would have the choice to utilize Bitcoin in whichever manner they see appropriate. According to the bill, state agencies are given the option to partner with crypto issuers and accept cryptocurrency as an accepted form of payment for various fines, penalties, and other dues which may be due to the government or any of its subsidiaries. This includes rent, taxes, service charges, revenue requirements, and other assessments. The potential applications of Bitcoin are starting to be discussed by a growing number of governments. It says governments in the United States. I understand what they mean there. Lately, legislators in the states of Mississippi and Missouri have proposed new legislation that would legally safeguard the rights of residents to mine Bitcoin. For those of you who were not here for that video, it was also The World is Weird. They are trying to make sure the politicians in Mississippi and Missouri that basically running code on your computer doesn't become illegal. I know it sounds really stupid, but there are a number of places around the world that have made it illegal for normal people to actually mine Bitcoin. It doesn't make any sense. It's very dystopian. So the fact that anyone would even have to put forth a proposal to be like, hey, let's continuously make this legal for people to run stuff on their computers that they own and it's just numbers is a little odd. This was one of the most popular news stories when this was released. The idea of there being a state, namely Arizona, with someone trying to come forward and announce that they're trying to make Bitcoin legal tender within the state is, I think they're about 10 years too early. I also have heard or read, I think it's also legally impossible. Unless there's a lawyer or someone who knows the law out there who can clarify. I'm fairly certain that under the law of the United States, the only thing that can be legal tender is the US dollar. There have been other attempts before, years ago, and these were all deemed illegal by the IRS and the CIA, etc., etc., etc. So like I said, I think they're a bit too early to the game. I think if we had a $500,000 or $1 million Bitcoin and the US dollar wasn't doing too well, I feel like it would be up to a vote then by the actual people in each state. But besides that, it doesn't seem like it's going to be an actuality anytime soon. But this was once again incredibly popular. I guess it's the dream that this could potentially happen. If this ends up, I don't think it can. I think you can propose a bill for anything. It doesn't mean that it's actually going to end up going through. That's the Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers trying to make Bitcoin legal tender within Arizona. I mean, good luck. All right. Let's move on. Oh, so also, super happy. It's weird. I found this and I was like, okay, I have to show everyone. Remember before, for those of you also not looking at the screen, remember before I was telling you about a week and a half ago and then also like years and years ago, like how much Bitcoin has risen, like percentage-wise, since its first, creation? So Bitcoin officially has been around for more than 14 years now. This was also very big news. Everyone was celebrating. It's kind of cringy because Bitcoin doesn't know that it's 14. Like Bitcoin isn't there celebrating at the party, what have you. But there were a lot of actual physical parties, and I think that's just down to people really liking the protocol. I'm not really sure. The other part is, once again, for those of you not looking at the screen, since Bitcoin was created, it has risen by 1.69 billion %. Right. So remember when we were talking about, I think the news was about Shiba Inu. I don't think it was Terra Luna. I think it was Shiba Inu. where we were talking in the article that it has gone up by a couple 100% since the beginning of this year. And I think last year it went up by 1.3 million% or something along those lines. And the article was basically saying there was a guy on Twitter who was talking about how impossible it would be for Shiba Inu to actually hit 1 cent. And he was like, it's never going to do that because it would have a $5 trillion market cap. And I was like, yeah, the point is that people are trying to burn so much Shiba Inu that there's only a few billion left so that it can actually end up hitting the 1 cent number. And I was like, yeah, that reminds me of like how people, when you say the number to people, it makes no sense to them. Because a lot of times when you, sorry, I'm talking way too fast. When you talk to people about investing, the normal numbers that they typically hear are, I made 19% this year. My property went up by 45% in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You don't normally hear, oh my gosh, dude, that house I bought 14 years ago, it's up by 1.6 billion%. The numbers don't sound real, but they actually are. So when I saw this article, it's from Bloomberg. I got super excited because I was like, there's the number. That's the number that I've been looking for. Because I remember even years ago, when I first got into Bitcoin, it was up by several million%. And I was like, well, it's clearly never going to go up anymore. You can't go up 1,000,000% and then continue rising. Guess who was stupid? Me. Yeah. So Bitcoin has been around for longer than 14 years. And if you look at the screen, it says it's 1.69 billion% gain. Looks kind of normal. It says impressive, but not unprecedented. This leads us to the, what happens when Bitcoin hits $500,000, when Bitcoin hits $1.35892437 million. What's the percentage then? Right? See, super fascinating. That's what I was trying to tell all of you before. It means nothing if I'm saying it out loud because you're just like, oh, he's making up a weird number. That number is insane. It's impossible. There are no other assets on the planet that have gained that much, or B, will ever gain that much in the same amount of time. It's actually impossible. This is why whenever we talk about all that guy who's in love with gold, Peter Gold Rabbit, Peter whatever his name is, he's still in the news all the time. And even in crypto news being like, well, Bitcoin's definitely going down to $1,000. You should be buying gold. I'm like, do you look? Do you know what numbers are? Do you understand if at the same period of time, I'll even give you a 10-year period, if gold had gone up by even 5,000%, not 1.69 billion, I would have been like, okay, cool, got it. All right, let me go buy some gold. Anyway, the point is, yeah, that's the Bitcoin number news. It's incredibly weird to look at, I know, but that's what happens when you start off. I think Bitcoin's first price ever was, I think, 1/10 or 1/100th of 1 cent. So, numbers. All right. Let's move on. Also this is supposed to be news, but I could have told you this one. The Stellar Development Foundation, a non-profit organization launched by ex-Ripple co-founder Jed McCaleb, allegedly had an exposure of $13.2 million to bankrupt lender Genesis. The exposure was recently uncovered in a bankruptcy filing from Genesis, which revealed billions in debt to its 50 largest creditors. You might remember we had news a couple of days ago that apparently FTX also owes money to Coinbase and to, I believe it was Amazon and to Apple and some other major company. And a lot of people were really surprised that how was Apple working with FTX? And I told you in another ranting video, all these companies know each other. They all work together. It's about debt diversification, if you will. You make sure that you, as a billion-dollar company, have exposure to just about every single thing out there that could potentially make you more money. You see a brand new company that has, high hopes of where they could be. You buy a portion of them. You go into their funding round, and this is how rich people keep making more money. Did you ever hear the story about that guy who painted the Facebook office? This is this very, very old story. This is before Facebook even went public. Random story. Before Facebook even went public, this guy was hired. Amazing painter. Absolutely incredible painter. Went into the office, was painting the walls. He said he had his headphones on. And at some point, somebody came up to him and they were like, hey, do you want like cash for this? Or like, should we pay you in Facebook stock? And he was like, I guess I'll take the stock. They hadn't gone public. So like it was, a ghost stock, if you will, for the future. And then when Facebook went public, I think he was automatically worth around like $80 million just from painting that one office. It's some insane. Anyway, the point is, it's a great story. So the news here is that allegedly Stellar had $13 million worth of exposure to Genesis. Why would they do that? Because I'm pretty sure every other cryptocurrency company had the exact same thing. It's just that we're not hearing about how much exposure that they had, because usually a lot of times, a lot of the other companies now want to keep everything hush-hush. That's why it wasn't surprising at all when we heard that this company and that company and these 5 companies and those 18 other companies all had exposure to FTX. Why is it not surprising? Because if FTX did have a chance at potentially becoming as large as Binance, which Changpeng Zhao was never going to let happen, become as large as Binance or Coinbase, you buy into them early. You see that they need funding so that in the next 20 years, your payback is several $100 million from this thing that started out as nothing. That's how it always ends up working out. Genesis owes its 50 biggest creditors a cumulative amount of $3.4 billion US. According to the recent filing, the Stellar Development Foundation, which has a $13.2 million exposure, is among these 50 largest creditors, securing the 42nd position, as recently highlighted in a Forbes report. The Stellar Foundation was created in 2014, yada, yada, yada. Don't really have to go through it. This was also very popular news, but similar to the other one that we also had before. A lot of people are shocked. I don't know if Jed McCaleb is your hero. That's what I think. Maybe a lot of the times when I try to process stuff in my head as to why this would make big news, a lot of times I assume that people really like someone in the space, i.e. like whenever like Elon Musk would sneeze or like if it sounded like he said Dogecoin, even if it was like Moin or something like that, the prices would go up or the market would react in some sort of way. So I don't think Jed McCaleb is, I don't know. I'm sure somebody likes him out there. So the point is, cool. Stellar is apparently owed money by Genesis. People were like, why were you working with Genesis? It's because every other company was doing the exact same thing. How much often do we have to go over all this stuff? Every company was working with FTX. Nearly every company was working with Genesis. FTX is not the first crypto exchange to do what they did. The other exchanges are doing the exact same thing. And I'm going to show you something in a couple of seconds. You're going to be like, but TMI, how could you have been right this entire time? It's because they're companies. They're just trying to make money. They don't actually care. One, they don't care about decentralization. And two, they're just trying to become like billionaires. That's the Stellar. Apparently is owed money by Genesis. Fantastic. Let's move on. People tried to make this news, but it didn't work out at all. Like, at all. President Nayib Bukele has lashed out at reports of defaults and critics who criticize the country's decision to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, as he announced that El Salvador has paid off $800 million worth of debt that they had in full. I'll explain in a second. In 2021, El Salvador made one of the bravest decisions I wouldn't say brave. I think it was actually quite brazen. I think the idea of bravery isn't simply having two forms of legal tender, but I digress. In modern history economics, as it adopted Bitcoin as a form of legal tender. The decision to make Bitcoin a legal tender drew wide criticism from the agencies such as the International Monetary Fund. You name it, every other person was like, bro, what are you doing? The International Monetary Fund even urged the North American... What? El Salvador is not North American. Okay. To drop Bitcoin as legal tender, citing risks to financial stability and consumer protection. To be fair, Bitcoin is volatile. It is not yet ready to be an everyday currency, but it's trying to make its way there. Fitch Ratings downgraded El Salvador's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating, or IDR, to CCC. For those of you, if you are a country that is in good standing with the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, your rating would be a AAA, sometimes a AA, sometimes an A, logically. A lot of countries do get Bs, but to have a CCC rating, that's basically as close as you can get to like the letter F. The decision to downgrade the rating was primarily due to its $800 million Eurobond repayment that matured this month. The president of El Salvador took to Twitter to call out the media that predicted the country would default on its loan. Nayib Bukele announced that El Salvador paid $800 million in full along with interest. So basically, I think people tried to make this a very popular story in the cryptocurrency space. It simply did not end up working out like I assumed that they wanted it to. A lot of people were posting it. It kind of fizzled. The president of El Salvador basically came forward because he was showing information and proof and anger on Twitter that for the last couple of years, every single news outlet was talking about how they were going to default on their debts. They weren't going to do good. They weren't going to blah, 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 Bitcoin, garbage, you name it. And then they paid off all of their debt, which is also unheard of. Countries don't typically pay off their debt. They kind of do like, you owe 800 million. All right, I'll pay you 8 million this year, and we'll see what happens. Like, there are countries who owe trillions of dollars to other countries, and these debts will never be paid off. It's just a terrible way that the world works, but it's kind of how it is. So everyone kept on saying that they were going to default on their loan. They didn't, but then no one reported about it. No one reported that this country that everyone was pushing to the side would actually repay their debt, and then they did. And then the president got really upset of El Salvador and went online on like a huge rant, basically being like, why is no one talking about it now? Which is totally understandable. But I think that the point of the news within the cryptocurrency space, at least from what I can understand, is that people were trying to make it seem like he was some kind of hero for repaying the debts that he was supposed to have repaid, or that he was able to pay the debts back because of Bitcoin and the strength of El Salvador. I don't know what people were really aiming for, but cool. So they still have Bitcoin as a form of legal tender. We got news recently as well that they're going to have like volcano Bitcoin soon. So that's not a new coin. It's more like they're going to be mining Bitcoin with geothermic energy. What was the other thing? Something else is also happening there. And yeah, they also use the Lightning Network. So it's nothing bad. You know, they paid off their debts. Hopefully they don't get into debt again. Yeah. See, it's like it's news, but it's not like insane. Whoa, he paid back. But like people were trying to make it something bigger. But I mean, everyone talks crap about everyone, especially on the news. So I think it's probably just best if he just stays away from the news. He'd probably be a happier person. Like, listen, I stopped watching the news a while ago. You will feel like a much better person because you realize the world's just swirling in diarrhea. That's the El Salvador paid off their debt news. And yeah, let's move on. This was incredibly popular. Major cryptocurrency exchange Binance has reportedly admitted that it mistakenly stored some customer funds in the same exact wallet with its collateral for some in-house tokens. After the revelation, Binance started the process of transferring the assets in question to dedicated collateral wallets. So once again, FTX began to collapse around November. Everyone completely lost their minds because they were like, I can't believe that a cryptocurrency exchange that we all believed and trusted in would do something like that. Remember what I kept on saying in November and December? Very, very clear. I kept on saying, okay, cool. Let's make sure that this never happens again. Everyone was, up in arms, going insane, talking about this is terrible. We need proof of reserves. We have to make sure that this is happening. And I said at least every other video, okay, that's cool. Sam Bankman-Fried is the devil. Now make sure that no one does anything that could be completely misconstrued as or seen as something that is terrible for the cryptocurrency space. It's not that difficult. Like I understand that these crypto operations, these crypto exchanges have many multiple layers and tons of people working on them. But the idea that people depositing money onto your platform were thrown in the exact same wallet as your collateral, your debt and the other tokens that you were using, I assume, for trading or for debt purposes or whatever the case might be. How does that end up happening? I was there for Mt. Gox. I remember the reason why Mt. Gox went down is because they had everything on one computer. So you would assume that in the year 2022, 2023, you would make sure that any customer funds being deposited onto, as Binance is the largest crypto exchange on the planet. No one realized that customer funds were falling into the exact same collateral wallet. Binance mistakenly put collateral for some of its Binance minted tokens, another token that they're calling B token. So these are not BNB tokens. This is yet another token called a B token into a wallet that also holds customer funds. On Monday, Binance revealed a proof of collateral for B tokens, providing information for all 94 tokens issued by Binance. All 94 tokens issued. I'll let you take that for how you will. The firm previously stressed that B tokens are always fully collateralized and are backed by 1-to-1. According to the proof of collateral, Binance reserves for almost 50% of all B tokens are currently stored in a single wallet called Binance 8. The wallet holds significantly more tokens in reserve than required for the amount of B tokens that Binance has issued. This allegedly suggests that Binance has mixed collateral with clients' coins rather than storing such assets separately. Despite the matter relating only to B tokens, some wallet management systems would apparently contradict Binance's own wallet guidelines. So, I can only hope that, based on this news, which was, of course, one of the most popular news stories, that Binance figures out how to separate deposits from users from a wallet that is used as collateral. At what point is someone developing this system and they go, should we have multiple wallets? I think we just throw those all together. People depositing their coins, those coins were thrown into, as far as we know right now, the mistake, wink, has been fixed. Binance mistakenly mixed crypto exchanges customers' funds with B token collateral. Binance admits to mixing up users' exchange funds with B collateral. Binance admits to mistake of storing its users' crypto assets inside collateral wallet. Can we just take a month? Can we just take a good month, every single cryptocurrency exchange, and go through everything that you have? Everything that could go wrong or might look weird for your exchange, any of your wallets, any of your collateral, any of your debts, any companies who you're working with, working for, working side by side with, that you might have debt with. Go through the numbers. Because what if this had been worse? What if something had happened to their collateral wallet? What if their collateral wallet hadn't actually been backed by 1-to-1? FTX was not and is not the only crypto exchange to do what they did. Hear my words. So, this was very popular news. as one might have expected. What is that? Sorry. Okay. Something on my hand. Don't mind me. Anyway, that's the Binance news. And I thought this was quite spectacular because this news came out not even, what's the word? Not even because of the Binance news. This news simply came out on its own. The New York State Department of Federal Financial Services, or the NYDFS, has urged firms to set apart customers' cryptocurrency holdings from their own assets. I kid you not. This news came out, didn't even mention the Binance thing because it just happened at the exact same time. The watchdog argued that commingling funds could trigger a significant financial loss for investors. The New York financial watchdog issued guidance to state-regulated companies on how they should better protect clients in the event of potential insolvency. It outlined the increasing interest in cryptocurrencies over the past few years and insisted that entities should maintain enhanced control over their customers' holdings. The agency also believes the market needs to function under an appropriate regulatory framework. They said, as stewards of other assets, virtual currency entities, VCEs, that act as custodians play an important role in the financial system, and therefore, a comprehensive and safe regulatory framework is vital to protecting customers and preserving trust. One, back it up. No, shut up. First of all, No. We just got news that Bitcoin has been around for 14 years. In the last 9 years, the NYDFS still has not released proper regulatory guidance to help protect customers' funds within New York. You can't keep releasing news and information that regulators are now ready to regulate. Where were you 7 years ago? Where were you 5 years ago? Where were you at the beginning of 2021? Why does something crazy always have to happen for regulators? And whoa. Another part is that, how much do you want to bet there's going to be no immediate regulation after this? What a lot of regulators around the world do is they see something scary come up. They know that the public is waiting for them to announce or say something in some sort of way. And then they say something on TV that sounds, oh, whoa, that's, you know what, NYDFS, that sounds great. I would love protection. And then you realize 6 months later, 12 months later, 27 months later, there's still nothing. There's no paperwork. There's nothing written up. Anyway, I thought that was spectacular. I didn't know what the odds were of them announcing this on the exact same day that Binance came forward and said that there might have been some issues with the stuff that was on their website. But no one knew this? You have one wallet where everything is being deposited? There's no separation. You made a collateral wallet and you also opened it up to user funds. Also, shame on you regulators for still not regulating. You guys talk so much about wanting to help people and secure this and stop losses for investors. You don't care about people at all. It's so terrible. Absolutely terrible. Anyway, that's all the Binance news that was rolling around out there. So I hope that they're paying attention, not only to what I'm saying, but also to their customer funds. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be another exchange who's not paying attention. And then the poop is going to hit the fan all over again. That's the Binance news. Let's move on. Also in like a bit cringy news, recently, Coinbase co-founder and CEO Brian Armstrong commented on a recent report by the Financial Times about Brazil and Argentina starting preparations for a common currency. This has been a discussion for a while. This isn't relatively brand new. As for those of you who don't know, hundreds of years ago, I even give you a good 150, 180, 200 years ago, the United States did not have a common currency. The currency for the United States was whatever paper your state was making. You can still find these old notes from the different states and stuff like that. Part of the problem was, the issue was, is that as people would go from Alabama up to New York, they would try to, use their Alabama money in New York, and you had to basically exchange your money, and some banks wouldn't take it. A lot of counterfeiting was going on, yada, yada. The US dollar was made as a common currency for the United States. Gotcha. A lot of South American countries for the last couple of years have been talking about developing some kind of a new currency, not digital, paper, for them to all fall under at the exact same time. We've heard this from a number of African countries. The idea is, if you have more countries under this umbrella, under this blanket, you make a stronger currency. If one country has the currency, cool. If 15 have it, it becomes a lot stronger than it would, or is less likely to fall or falter or fall apart. This is what we're seeing with the euro. People may not like the euro. Who cares? They have the euro. It's worked out. It's still working out. Who knows? Whatever. There was also a conversation years ago. This was shut down immediately. The United Kingdom, France, I think China, and a bunch of other countries were trying to make a new banking currency that would go around the US dollar. That was decimated within days. Like, there was talk about it, and the US was like, nope, you don't even get to talk about that. So we're now at the point where a lot of other countries are trying to figure out ways to strengthen their currencies, or to move on to something new, because what they had before just simply wasn't working. So basically, you admit your mistakes, you drop all the other stuff that you had before, you make a new currency, and kind of hope and wish for the best. And this is what Brazil and Argentina are currently lightly discussing. It says, as you may know, on the 5th of June, Zap Solutions co-founder and CEO Jack Mallers announced that El Salvador would make Bitcoin legal tender. It was a really weird thing. He was like crying on stage and talking about how happy he was. It was very, very odd. It says that, blah, 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 get a little bit further. Still talking. Okay, there's a lot of stuff about El Salvador. Wonderful. On the 22nd of January of this year, the Financial Times reported that Brazil and Argentina this week will announce that they are starting preparatory work on a common currency, and a move that could eventually create the world's second largest currency bloc, the first one being the euro. The report went on to say South America's two biggest economies will discuss the plan at a summit in Buenos Aires this week, and will invite other Latin American nations to join. The initial focus will be on how a new currency, which Brazil suggests calling the Sur, South, could boost regulatory trade and reduce reliance on the US dollar. It would at first run in parallel with the Brazilian real and the Argentinian peso. The news basically is that a lot of people from the cryptocurrency space began to jump forward talking about, well, you should adopt Bitcoin as your only currency or something like that. And you have to understand, these countries, I'll give it to you nicely. Brazil has already done far more than many other countries in the aspect of Bitcoin adoption. Bitcoin is legal there. You can mine Bitcoin. There are cities within Brazil who are also buying up Bitcoin as part of their city's reserve assets. It's moving along. It's moving forward. A lot of times when people announce that Bitcoin should be the only, and I say only here, legal tender for a country, it's usually quite cringy because it comes from a place of wealth where these people don't understand that the hundreds of millions of people in these other countries probably can't immediately afford to see Bitcoin at 14,000 one day, 26,000 the next, 8,000 the next day. Like, the fluctuations do have an actual real world effect on even us. You've seen how the market reacts when we hear that Bitcoin is actually up or down, or some type of trouble might be going on. So this was very popular news. Incredibly popular. People were like, yeah, they should adopt Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin as an adoption measure, or even as some type of the word's not collateral, as a backing of some type of an asset, I think would be cool or make a lot of sense if you're basing it off of Satoshis. We have 1 Bitcoin. We can make 100 million of this currency. That seems to me to make a lot of sense. But the idea that you as a multi-billionaire head of Coinbase could think that these countries that have a relatively high level of poverty within them would simply switch to a Bitcoin standard, and the people there who for, 11 months out of the year when there is a Bitcoin bull run would do incredibly well, would then also be thrown into extreme poverty for the next 4 years as they wait for the next bull. It's all a bit of nonsense. I understand the idea. I think the way that Bitcoin becomes first of all, Bitcoin is a world currency. It is being used around the world by hundreds of millions of people. Got it. But the way that Bitcoin becomes the currency is not by writing a tweet hoping that Brazil and Argentina will be like, Brian Armstrong has a point. Let's get rid of all of our paper and just start using Bitcoin. No, it has to go slow and steady. It has to be by adoption within the countries. The countries, what was that other country 2 weeks ago? It was incredible. For those of you who missed it, there was some country, was it Thailand, who announced that anyone who wants to get into crypto can go to their SEC's website and they have a full course. You can learn everything about blockchain, about crypto, about Bitcoin, about mining. You can learn every single thing for free on their platform. That's how you get adoption. Have Brazil and Argentina create something like that. Let their citizens know exactly what this is. Incentivize them to start their own mining companies, to start mining Bitcoin inside of their houses. You start slow and steady before you simply throw it at these people. So at least they would. Anyway, the point is, this was very popular. A lot of people were like, yeah, 2 more countries. And it's like, dude, you have to understand like the idea of destroying or getting rid of your old currency to try and make a brand new one is because your old currency is garbage. Most people around the world don't have the luxury of waking up, seeing that Bitcoin's at 22,000 and being like, okay, I'm fine. Because if Bitcoin goes down to 16,000, they're screwed. Like they don't have the... Anyway, that's the rich, I don't know. Rich news, I don't know what to even categorize this as. I want to say stupid news. It's not stupid. I understand the idea of it, but be realistic. Anyway, that's the Brazil, Argentina, El Salvador, Bitcoin legal tender. I give it like 10 to 15 years news. All right. Let's move on. Yeah. As always, I hope that you've all enjoyed. I hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, commenting, liking, subscribing, supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.